Hey there, it's Kate Swoboda, also known as Kate Courageous. I'm the creator of YourCourageousLife.com, the director of the Courageous Living Coach certification at TeamCLCC.com, and author of the book, The Courage Habit. In my continuing quest as a multi-potentialite, I also talk about teaching the teachers over at Facilitate with Impact. And now I'm the host of a new podcast, the Your Courageous Life podcast. We're going to talk about going after what you want and living a more courageous, emotionally resilient life. I might drop a couple of F-bombs, so don't listen with your kids in the back seat. And here we go. Hey everybody. Huge theme this season, the inaugural season of the Your Courageous Life podcast, has been this word sovereignty. And when I'm thinking about sovereignty, I'm thinking about personal sovereignty, a sense of agency, a sense of really being able to look at your life and go, I think even in the face of this challenge, that I can clearly stay aligned with my priorities. And my priorities, they don't feel like burdens, they feel like a joy. And I can connect with passion, and I recognize the symptoms of when that passion starts to slide into overwhelm or exhaustion. I'm in right relationship with my time, right relationship as in feeling sovereign over your time, with my money, feeling sovereign over your money, with other people, not feeling sovereign over other people, but feeling like you have appropriate boundaries. You don't slide into people pleasing. You know how to handle it when there's a conflict. Not comfortable, but you know who you are. You are grounded in who you are in those moments. And your deepest desires get to take up time and space in your life. This is really about feeling capable of changing your own life. And I think that when we start to take responsibility for our own lives in a way that is really about who we are in an aligned way, that's when we are in the most resourced place to be able to do more for the world. That's the well that we draw from to live in a way that's better, that touches other lives, that makes other lives better as well, by extension. And so today I'm going to be talking a little bit about becoming sovereign. Not a little bit. I'm going to totally be talking about becoming sovereign. And it's based on a blog post that I have written by the same title. And it starts with a story of sorts, a story that I call a precipice moment. So ever had a precipice moment? A precipice is like when you're standing on the edge of something. And I say a precipice moment is one of those moments when you're standing on the precipice and you are clear. This is it. And to be honest, you're clear in this way that's very like, fuck, like this is it. Like it just can't keep being the same way. And this is the moment. Some people might call it a rock bottom moment. I don't think it has to get to a rock bottom moment, but often it does. Before we finally go, something has to change. It just has to. And this is the moment when you will either step over the precipice into something new, or you won't. And I gotta say, I've never felt more hopelessness, I guess, than I have in those moments where I know something needs to change, but I feel really stuck around how to change it. And I'm really, unfortunately, aware that I don't yet have it in me to make the change I need to make. And I'm very grateful that it has been many years since I've had a moment like that. But they've been very difficult whenever I've had them. Precipice moments are distinctly uncomfortable. So if you have had one, or if you feel like your whole life is one at the moment, there's a lot of stuff online where it's like, oh, hey, glittery adventure, I decided I had to change my life, and here I am, sparkles. I have never experienced a true precipice moment in that way. I have experienced them more like, I cannot keep on keeping on the way that I have been. I was listening to a podcast by Tiffany Hahn, the Raise Your Hand, Say Yes podcast. I've been a guest on the podcast. I've been a longtime fan of the podcast. And she was doing a podcast about her decision to quit drinking, and she said something, and I was like, yeah, Tiffany Hahn has had a precipice moment. And it is that moment when you're like, something needs to change, but you're also at the same time like, oh, but I really don't want to have to change this. It's going to be a lot of work, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So precipice moments are distinctly uncomfortable, and one of the hugest ways that we avoid stepping into our own sovereignty is that when that discomfort arises, we think, well, I need to wait for when it's a little easier. And that frequently can just keep you forever waiting, unfortunately. So the precipice moment is, I can't keep doing this in the same way, the way that I have been. This has to stop. Change must start now. Usually followed by a lot of really overwhelming questions. How am I going to do it? Can I even do it? What am I going to do now? Where do I even start? What do I do first? What if I start this and then I end up right back here? One of the boldest, most difficult precipice moments in my entire life happened in the summer of 2010. It was like a big time of transformation. Somebody who's more familiar with astrology than I am, feel free to tell me sometime, what were Sagittarians going through in the summer of 2010? Because I felt like 5 different things were coming my way at once. It was a lot. There were a lot of things that felt out of control during that summer, a lot of intense transitions, and then one of those dark nights of the soul hit where everything was wrong, but then I couldn't sleep. And then you know how it goes when you can't sleep, because lack of sleep will intensify everything. And then somewhere around probably 5 a.m. after a night of no sleep, I just kind of bottomed out. It was like this despair. Like, things just have to change. They just have to. I cannot keep doing this. This has to stop, and change has to start now. It has to start today. I don't know how I'm doing it. I don't know what it's going to look like. I'm totally afraid that I'm going to fuck it up. I feel like a complete idiot that it's taken me this long to change. I don't want anyone to know how bad I let it get before I finally decided to change. Any of this sounding familiar? That was all of it. It was like a shame, vulnerability, strangely almost like bright faith moment. Because the shame and the vulnerability were incredibly difficult, but there was this little glimmer that when I was backed into a corner by myself, by the way, nobody was backing me into a corner. I made a series of decisions that were not good, and that emotionally backed myself up into a corner. It was like, okay, I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight for my life. So the most difficult moment about all of that wasn't even realizing that things needed to change. It was realizing that I had hit a couple of precipice moments before. This wasn't like new territory. I mean, haven't we all looked at our lives and gone, things must change? And then we put change in motion for a week or a month or whatever, and then things go back to what they were. And each time I did that, it was self-sabotage. And each time I sabotaged myself in this way, I eroded my own self-trust. That self-trust where I could say, if I want to make this change, here's how I'm going to do it. To change, you need self-trust. You need to trust yourself enough to know that if you say something needs to change here, you'll be accountable to yourself and you'll follow through. And because I had sabotaged myself so many times before, I doubted my ability to change. And don't get me wrong, when I say I didn't really think that I could follow through, there were places in my life where I had followed through. On some level, I knew logically what you're supposed to do. I knew logically enough to take some kind of action. I would journal about what was not working. I was receiving coaching support. I was in a process. It just wasn't a perfect process. This is one of the things that drives me crazy about, life coaching. People will say, well, what qualifies you to be a life coach when you still have stuff in your life that you're supposed to figure out? And it's like, well, does anybody ever reach any point in their life where there's not something that they're trying to figure out? And what financial advisor do you know who's perfect with money? And what doctor do you know who's always perfect with every single decision they make on behalf of their health, who eats a perfect diet, right? What psychotherapist do you know who lives a perfect life? The skill set of coaching is not you have your life perfect and thus you are equipped to help others. That's a guru model. The skill set of coaching is that you have this container that you can set for the session to help clients when they are stuck. And I think an important part of the coaching skill set for an individual coach is that you're getting help. And I was getting help. But I still had my patterns. And I would do things, but my faith in myself to change was seriously diminished because I was not consistent and I was not really accountable to myself about what it took to change. Now, when people are in a process, and this is very true with coaching, and this is very true, I think, no matter how good the coach you ever consult is at coaching you, the thing about a process is that you need consistency. And you're going to have 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And somehow it occurred to me in the midst of all of these of this precipice moment, of this dark night of the soul, was that the missing piece in my efforts to change was consistency. So I had been going to coaching sessions with my coach for about 2 years. He had been suggesting these are some practice tools that you need between our sessions. And he had been suggesting those things because he knew that, seeing a coach twice a month is not going to change your life the other 28 days of the month. So I would work with these tools that he gave me for a week, and then I'd drop them. I'd get stuck again. I'd go in for coaching. I'd work with the tools a little bit more. I would see a little bit of progress. I'd be excited about it. But then, life would kind of creep in and I'd drop them. And it's a lot like trying to change eating habits. If you don't want to have sugar, or you don't want to have wine or something like that, you say, okay, I'm going to go 30 days without sugar or wine. And then maybe you do that, but then like day 31, you kind of start going, well, I'm okay, right? I went 31 days without wine. I'm good. So these tools, by the way, were relatively simple stuff. Take a moment each day to acknowledge and validate myself in some positive way. Pause. Think of what I'm actually grateful for. Access the body. Process through feelings. Connect with other people. So this time, after this precipice moment and dark night of the soul, when I was like, all right, this has to change. These patterns in my life that are not working, they are eroding me. I have to change. So I decided that I would commit to these tools like I had committed to nothing else in my life before. Like if my hair was on fire, I was looking for water. I was serious in a way I'd never been serious before. And actually hand drew a little grid in the back of a moleskin notebook with columns for each tool. So like you can imagine the first column was a little bit wider because it listed out each tool. And then the other vertical columns were narrower because those were columns for each date. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh of the month. And I would put an X next to that tool for that date each time I completed the tool for that day. And I actually didn't know it at the time, but I was utilizing the very brain-based process that you go through with habit formation. The more I followed through consistently on these tools, the more they were becoming ingrained habits. Habits run on a cue, routine, reward loop. So the cue was I have to check in with this moleskin notebook each day. And then the routine was following through on the tools. The reward was not just the little X, although on a brain-based level, even that gratification of that little X or gold star or whatever you want to give yourself can be a way of reinforcing a habit. The real reward was that with time, I started to really see benefits in my life, like serious benefits. And with time, too, this became habitual enough that I didn't need to consult a moleskin notebook to go, what am I grateful for? Because it started to become how I was living. It was just simply how I was living. And those small habits ended up becoming the way I lived my life. I began feeling more grounded, more effective. And this is what I'm calling sovereign. There was this internal stability and sovereignty that I'd longed for. And it no longer felt like this thing that I had to make to-do lists for in my life or try to fit into my day somehow. It was actually how I lived. And this is something I talk about in The Courage Habit, my book, as well. How amazing is it if you can establish courageous, emotionally resilient habits that boost your life, that don't feel like these things that you have to strive for anymore. Like if you want to be a more positive person or a more patient person or a person who looks on the bright side, this is an actual habit that you can cultivate. And it will at first be this thing where you're trying to make yourself be that way because you're trying to establish the habit. But with time, what you will actually see is yourself responding to life's challenges in whichever way that you are engineering those habits to respond to life's challenges with. You want to be more positive, you want to be more patient, you want to look on the bright side. This is something that you can train your brain to do. You can unhook from old habits and you can rewire yourself. And this is pure science and everything we know about habit formation. It's not just a wish and a prayer and a hope or an affirmation. This is real. So how do you do it? Well, if you read my book, The Courage Habit, I talk about habit formation and how you can get into some of these strategies in that book. There are actually a lot of resources that are out there about habit formation. Charles Duhigg's, Duhigg book, The Power of Habit was a really, really great one. I know Gretchen Rubin has written about habit formation, and I think that there's a lot of really great work out there. But here's what I have created that you might be interested in, and it is an intensive. The way I've been thinking about it is, how long did I spend in all of the stuff that kept me from really taking action? How much progress could I make around shifting the things that I wanted to make when I was only going to 2, maybe 3 coaching sessions per month? That's like an hour of time with someone once a week, maybe once every other week. And for some time now, I've thought to myself, I would really love to create something programmatic where there was more of an intensive quality to this work of looking at the lifelong habits and patterns that people have established and how to create new habits that connect you to this life where you feel sovereign, this life where you are living from the place of your most courageous self. There's this line that I hit on when I was writing my book, The Courage Habit, and it was that living with courage is about when you let who you truly are on the inside be how you actually live on the outside. And that's how I feel I've emerged, and I've seen clients emerge through many months of coaching. It's definitely a process that I've seen graduates of the Courageous Living Coach certification go through. This is the kind of transformation that really is possible when you say, I'm clear on what hasn't been working. I'm clear on the direction I want to move into. And I have some legit strategies, and strategies almost feels like too much of a top layer word because it goes deeper than that. But I have some real knowledge about how I can really unhook from the habits that just don't work and create new habits that stop feeling even like so much effort after a while. This is a very unique process for each person. The habits that I want to change might be completely different than the habits that somebody else wants to change. The things that were getting in my way might be completely different than the things that get in somebody else's way. And so that's why I said, I want to create something where I can actually do a real deep dive, both individually and in community, balancing both of those with a group of people. And that's why I created something called the Sovereign Experience. Now, sovereign, by the way, hard word for people to spell. I checked my own spelling on it. It's SOVEREIGN. So like that reign, like to reign over. The Sovereign Experience is actually linked over at the Your Courageous Life website. If you go to yourcourageouslife.com and you scroll down, you will see a little area that says learn more about the sovereign experience. And here's what it's going to be. It is going to be a 6-month intensive. I'm using the word intensive intentionally. Doesn't mean you're going to be like worked to death or something here, looking at stuff that's hard. It just means that it's really going to be something that you'll benefit the most from if you commit your time for this 6-month period all the way. And there will be some follow-up that's going to be available after the 6-month period, but the 6-month, the intensive, looking at those habits, those patterns that they've just been not working for too long. They've become exhausting. And rewiring to create the habits that boost you up, that strengthen your resilience. That's what this program is all about. And how are we going to do that? Well, it's going to be a combination of the community support and the one-on-one support. So as part of the program, you will be doing some amount of lesson-based content. And I know there are a lot of different mastermindy programmy things out there where, they give you like a book to read or they give you an audio, and it's all great work. I think it's excellent to include those sorts of things into any program, because sometimes it's when you're reading or when you're listening to a really powerful audio on a topic that you're trying to figure out for yourself that something distills for you. So that time, that space, to just be with some materials, to revisit it, to go over it a couple times, that's important. But here's what I really think is going to be critical about the change. The Sovereign Experience as a 6-month program is going to integrate one-on-one coaching, and it's going to integrate community. So we will be meeting together as a group, and there will be certain things that you guys will get to do together as a community, as a team, really coming together to support one another. And these are the bonds that I'm envisioning lasting long beyond the sovereign experience. And all the research that I ever saw for the courage habit pointed to social networks, social communities, social ties as being something that really boosts people's courage and their ability to feel like they're capable of changing or doing the things that they want to do in their life. Not to mention, it just makes it so much more fun. People are just so much happier when they have community. And often we don't get to connect with the communities that we want to connect with. Maybe the people, the coworkers, the people in our area, they're just like, I don't know, maybe they're people who are like, I don't know, self-help. I just don't really think about it. Why would I want to look at my stuff? It just seems like, I don't know, I just never think that way. I've heard people say that. And they're great people, and you can totally, I don't know, hang out with them and grab a beer at a bar and chat. But the real connection, the go deep connection for me, is always the people who are going, you know what, I really gotta be honest with you, Kate. If I ask how they're doing, they go, I gotta be honest with you. I am exhausted right now. I feel like I'm juggling time and money and kids and marriage and everything. And how do I do all that, plus give back, plus figure out why I'm in conflict with my in-laws, plus. It's a lot. And that's why I envision Sovereign as being for someone who knows they are feeling time-starved, joy-starved. There's like a hunger that's happening for true nourishment in your life. And that hunger is not just about, I want to make my life better. That hunger is about, I want to make my life better because I feel like I can't even fully hold space for doing good beyond my own individual life because I'm so overwhelmed by all the things. There's so much going on. So I want to combine lesson-driven content where you really get to do a deep dive study of who you are and what uniquely makes you tick and what it is you want, the stuff that you want that you're almost like afraid to say you want it, but you want it. And how do we get out of being realistic and actually help you create that? And then we combine that with community, and we combine that with those really juicy, amazing relationships. We get rid of that mean girls bullshit that's left over from high school, and we connect on a different level. And we mix that in with one-on-one coaching. And I have been working for the last 5, 6 years. There are several women I've been working with for the past few years who are just soul sister coach friends of mine. They're the people that I will be like, look, can you hold some coaching space for me? I need some session time. I'm feeling stuck around this. What do I do? And they deliver the truth bombs and this is where, I need to tell you, I'm confronting with love and kindness. This is what I see. And I know it's super hard to look at, but here's what I see. And the encouragement and the vitality. I've been working with several coaches for several years who are amazing. They're going to be joining me to help lead the Sovereign Experience. And anyone who joins the Sovereign Experience will be able to receive one-on-one sessions, regular one-on-one sessions with these fellow leaders of the program. And I will also be including some one-on-one sessions with me for every single person who is joining the program. And that's because I believe that, well, first of all, it's because I think it's just such an honor and a privilege, a joy, a delight. It fills my cup to work with people one-on-one. I love working with people. And because I really want this to be something where you are getting a deeply personalized experience. You're going to be going into some deep territory, so you're going to be getting some deep support as part of the Sovereign Experience. And because the Sovereign Experience is going to include all of this one-on-one coaching, me having coaching sessions with every single member of our group, things like that. And you can check out the Sovereign Experience page over at yourcourageouslife.com to see exactly how many sessions are included and all that good stuff. Because of the way that we are integrating personal attention into this program, we are maxing it out at 20 participants. So rather than just have open registration and trying to get a bunch of people to join, our aim as a team is to actually cap it at 20 participants. That enables us to really give that time and attention to each person. After people register, one of the first things we'll be asking them to do is fill out maybe the most in-depth questionnaire you've ever filled out in your life. Because we're getting on it right away. We want to know all about you because we want to start immediately thinking about how we are going to structure things for you within the program, how we're going to meet your needs, how we're going to really be there to show up for you. And I know that this is true for everyone who's participating. Our deepest hope for you is that there's a new kind of precipice moment that happens in your life. And it is that when you're standing at the edge of your precipice, you're going, there's something in my life that needs to change. There's a way of being that I've been doing for way too long that kind of sort of works, but in a lot of ways kind of sort of doesn't. We're hoping that this program is a before and an after. And in that messy middle, let me tell you, this program is not going to be without challenges. There are going to be times in the middle of this program where you're going to be like, fuck, why did I ever decide I wanted to work on this? Because, we live in a culture that romanticizes courage and makes it just like a glittery adventure. And of course it can be. And we are always going to be looking for where we can make it fun. But there are places where it gets really difficult and you're going to need support in the midst of any of that difficulty. And that's what we want to give to you. We want you to have support like you've never experienced before in your entire life. So here it is, the Sovereign Experience. Super excited that it's happening. It's something I've been working on behind the scenes for years and years. And then I got married and I had a kid and I'd work on it a little more in little bits and pieces and, started the coach training program 5 years ago and then put off Sovereign a little longer and then got a book deal. And it was like, yay, got a book deal. And then got to put it off a little longer. But now I feel like, okay, this just has to come into being because I'm just too lit up about what I know is possible. And I'm excited and delighted to bring something to you that's going to be combining the best of the science behind habit formation and the science behind psychological courage and habit formation and behavior change, and really combine that with coaching and community and connection. And I'm already envisioning what it's going to feel like to be on the other side of that. The relief of knowing that even if life throws you a curveball, you have something that you can really powerfully root into. You are sovereign, even when life throws a shit sandwich your way. And you are sovereign when great things happen so that you can fully celebrate them all the way. And it's a delight. And I can't say how excited I am to begin this journey with you. All right, so this podcast episode was dedicated to talking about becoming sovereign and the Sovereign Experience program. Other podcast episodes that are forthcoming are going to be all about how we practice courage with money, play by your own rules, and oh yeah, what to do when you hate your job. That's a really helpful one for a lot of people. So expect that that's what's forthcoming. And again, if you want to learn more about the Sovereign Experience, head over to yourcourageouslife.com and just start scrolling down, and you will see a little icon that talks about to be sovereign is to be grounded, and a button that says learn more. And you'll be able to learn more. And if it feels right for you, hopefully join us. Let us know also if you have any questions. Otherwise, you can find me on social media. On Facebook, I'm over at facebook.com/yourcourageouslife. I'm also on every other social media platform, I think, as Kate Courageous. And you can get a bunch of totally free resources on living with more courage if you head over to yourcourageouslife.com/begin. See you around.